There's a couple of schools of thoughts on this. Federal minimum wage, $7.25 an hour. The year 2026. The average rent, $1,000 a month. Gallon of gas, $4 a gallon. Pack of cigarettes, if you're lucky, $4. But I've seen them, certain cities and states up over $20 for one pack of cigarettes. Again, federal minimum wage, $7.25 an hour. The average value meal, $7, $8, $9. Loaf of bread, $3.25. Again, I'll reiterate. Federal minimum wage, $7.25 an hour. Now, the thing that kills me is that the politicians in charge of setting the federal minimum wage have never held a real job. Or if they have, it's been so long ago that they don't remember. Or maybe daddy or mommy had connections and got them a good job so they could understand what the real world was like. It's so sad and so disconnected and so messed up, but it's all by design. The elected people in this country hate the country. They don't love the country. Often they hate it. They believe they should rule over you as kings and queens. And they do. And we allow it. Again, federal minimum wage, $7.25 an hour. Now, do you realize that if you work an hour of your life and you let Uncle Sam take their gas or their taxes, that's hilarious. That's the first thing that happens. So they take their taxes out. You get a little bit of scrap that's left. All right, now, you tell me how you're supposed to live. $10 an hour, and if you get a job at $10 an hour, the employer giving you the $10 an hour expects you to come to work and feel like they're doing you a favor by paying you more than minimum wage. So, $10 an hour, 40 hours a week. Math's very simple. That's $400. Don't forget to take out your taxes. Depending on your tax bracket, that leaves you, we'll say, $320. So $320 a week. Okay? That's $640 every 2 weeks. $1,280 a month. Let's suppose your rent is $900 a month. Now you take and do the rest of that. It's not going to happen. But, on paper they say that the federal minimum wage and the minimum wage job is just that. It's to be the minimum wage. And those jobs are only supposed to be held while you're in high school. So I have a question for you. Would you consistently want your Starbucks, your burger joint, to be staffed by those who are just in high school? I mean, management on down, right? So that's what they want. So that means that nobody's going to stick around in that job long enough to become a manager and move their way up to become a store manager. You can only get what? You're down to 2.5 months off in the summer now for kids. So then what happens when they go back to school? Think about this for a second. Let it sink in. So if all these minimum wage jobs are held by kids who are in school and can only work outside of school and not past 9 p.m. on a school night, what happens to those businesses that are just supposed to be minimum wage job, minimum skills, kids? What happens to those businesses, those doors, and those companies when the kids go back to school? Exactly, they would shutter and close until school was out again. They don't do that. Why don't they do that? They don't do that because there are people there You started there out of high school and stayed there. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. That means there's a role out there for everybody. And the thing that cracks me up is people who sit there and say, well, it's a minimum wage job. You're supposed to go get a better job. Well, if you don't have any skills, or you don't understand it, or even associate with the wrong kind of people, they're going to convince you to not to go to school. They're going to convince you to go to work. So if you go to get a college degree, let's go get a college degree now, just for fun. Let's say that, cost of tuition and everything, it's going to drive you down $10,000, $12,000 a year. Now, if you're not in a well-to-do family, obviously $12,000 a year tuition. If you're not a well-to-do family, you're in a community college, and you're just trying to figure it out. Now, I personally believe that the advisors in these schools that allow kids to take such stupid matrices, some of these dumbass things, like how to talk to a dog, or gender studies. But anyway, should be criminally held liable for it, because these kids are going to school with the understanding you get a college degree, you get a good job. That's what you're told. So these kids are going in debt, right? And they're doing all this, and then they get the job, and what do they get at the end of the job? They get nothing. They can't even get a job in that degree because that field doesn't exist. So now, these kids, the disillusioned kids who went to college, all you keyboard warriors out there, they're trying to get a real job, they can't, because the college advisors, the academic advisors didn't advise them that their idea in gender equality among penguins was a bad career move and a bad idea to get a degree in it. Now they're $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in debt with a degree that they can do anything with. They can't afford to live anywhere. They can't afford to do anything. But they listened to you, Mr. Keyboard Warrior, and they went to college. So what kind of job do they get? Yep, you guessed it. $7.25 an hour minimum wage. You know what the cool thing is? You got student loans, you don't make payments on them, they can start garnishing your wages. So there's that. So then all these people that are making this subpar wage, they get on welfare system because the welfare system's there. Okay. So now you get these people, 40 million plus Americans are on SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or food stamps. And nobody bats an eye about it at first. In November of 25, I believe, it was the government shutdown. And during the government shutdown, it shut down everything. Everything. You get food stamps to get in. So then it became out on the news. 40 million plus Americans don't know where their next meal is coming from. Instant outrage. Why are you 40 million people get a job? Get a job, get a job, get a job, get a job. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry said get a job. Now, mind you, these people went to college, got out of college, making that federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour, or they were one of the biggest employers in the country, in the world probably, but definitely in the country, and they go to Walmart. I guess anything about big companies. When you sit down, anybody who's been through this, they ask if you've been a member of a family that's received any of these things the last month, a year, 5 years, 36 months, whatever. They ask if you've got TANF, which is Temporary Assistance Needed Families, also called cash assistance. Then they have the question about food stamps. Now, the reason they want you to answer those truthfully is because if you say yes, we've gotten welfare checks. Yes, we've gotten food stamps. Yes, we have the medical coverage. And that employer hires you. that employer doesn't have to pay you more than $10 an hour or whatever, but they have enough of you there, they get a tax break. So let that sink in for a minute. They receive 40 million, $40 million, or 40 million Americans receive benefits. Let's say 36 million of them are actually working. The remaining part are disability and elderly. So anyway, back to this. So they say, get a job, get a job, get a job. Well, they can't get a job because nobody really cares about the penguins' toes sticking in the snow. But the keyboard warriors definitely are out there saying, get a job, get a job, get a job. So explain to me how that works. At $7.25 an hour, the federal minimum wage. I think we've said that enough. Actually, I probably established that quite well. So explain to me something. How in the world is somebody supposed to make it on that? But you know what you do instead? You shame the people. You shame the people who are getting the assistance. Like it's their fault. And then they get defensive because they're trying. Many of those people have jobs. Sometimes 2 jobs. And, one of the requirements you had to get a lot of in the food stamps and welfare and stuff is to have kids and have a lot of kids. And then when you complain about how many kids they have, why is that the go-to answer? Why is the go-to answer get a job? Why is the go-to answer, mooch, leech, call names? Let me put this into perspective for you blue-collar guys out there. Go to work and you sit there and you're saying, I'm glad I'm at work so those people can sit home and eat, live off my welfare, live off my tax dollars. Well, let's put it into perspective for you. Oliver Anthony, the internet success, reached one song, shot to stardom, and now has vanished. But the point is, called Richmond, north of Richmond. And when he wrote that song, none of his money went to fund the SNAP benefits. Didn't make enough. After he wrote the song, and after he started getting the royalties and the money from the song, then when his income went up, 3, 4, 6 tax brackets, that's when his money started funding him. So you little people don't even fucking fund it, but yet you're the first one to run your mouth and shame people for doing it. And don't sit there back in my day. Because back in your day, there were ration coupons. They were passed off as ration coupons during the war or whatever. But you know what? Same concept. Still free money given to you, your family, to buy food. So see that as more either. So my question is, why don't we, as a society, take a look at raising the minimum wage to a living wage. A living wage. The minimum wage would have followed the trend of inflation. Minimum wage right now would be around $23 to $25 an hour. And everybody right now just grasps. They just and they grab their chest, they couldn't believe it. Stumble around, I'm on my way, Elizabeth. I'll be there soon. We'll be ready soon. And that's his version of him having a heart attack because it's so expensive. So I don't get it. Get a job, but we're only going to give you $7 an hour. You still can't live on it. So you get a job at Walmart because everybody's at Walmart's a great job, blah, blah, blah. So you get a job there. They pay you a little better minimum wage. If you're lucky, you get 30 hours a week. But you know what? You turn in that paper that says you make $30 an hour. Negate how many hours? You see 1 hour a week. So I get it. Then how does that sit out? How are we supposed to do it? Well, your argument going to be a Big Mac's going to be too much. The value is going to be, you look at it now, minimum wage is still $25 an hour. I mean, seriously. And people losing their mind over AI and robots taking over. What do you expect? I mean, really, what do you think is going to happen? And that's what they're going to do. Why? Because they don't have to pay you, peasant. You don't have to pay anything for that guy. Maybe an increase on our power bill. But it doesn't cost them anything. I think I heard that trailer park up there on the hill, $1 million a month. You should lease that land for something. So I just don't get it. You want somebody to get a job, you want them to make more money, but yet you don't want to do it. And if they say, well, I would be a garbage man or a welder or anything like that, everybody looks down their nose at them. It wasn't for those blue collar guys, we wouldn't have a country. What's the first thing people do? Get a job. Why don't you move your head from your ass? Take a look around, talk to people, and actually realize what's going on. Which means you have to take off your fuzzy glasses and pay very, very close attention to everything. Yeah, that's right, though. Do that. Don't question why in this country. It's because it's the greatest nation on earth. Why are there that many people getting food stamps? Where are we failing? Society needs to take a look at where did we fail? How did we fail? And not do it again. We're going to start that movement now. Three new generations. Okay, cool. But,